You're a deaf person who's been hearing impaired for 3 years, yet your arch nemesis chases you every day, calling you wife. Even when he's signing insults at you, his mouth is speaking sweet nothings, and he even secretly hides your photos, asking plaintively when you'll like him. However, your hearing has long since recovered, but you choose to conceal it, secretly chuckling as you watch his two-faced performance. After my hearing recovered, I was eager to go and show off to my arch nemesis, but I unexpectedly caught him looking at my photo, his voice full of grievance. Wife, when will you finally fall in love with me? So I concealed the fact that my hearing had recovered. Watching him act, the sign language he was clearly signing to me was, "Why are you here again?" But the words that came out of his mouth were, "Woo woo woo, wife, you're finally here." After my hearing recovered, the first thing I did was go find my arch nemesis, Luke Dawson, to show off. We've been arch nemeses since childhood. For the 3 years after my car accident, when my hearing was damaged, he was always hovering around me. He'd even argue with me in sign language from time to time. Yes, he specifically learned sign language just to argue with me. Luke had gone to his own company. When I arrived, the front desk didn't stop me. I was used to it. Going to each other's companies to stir up trouble was a necessary weekly routine. The front desk ladies smiled and nodded at me. I nodded back and turned to get on the elevator. Suddenly, I heard whispers behind me. "The madam is here to see the boss again. So sweet." Our boss's face must be splitting from smiling today. I looked over curiously, and the front desk ladies immediately stopped their discussion when they noticed my gaze. "Madam? Boss? Is boss referring to Luke? Then madam is Luke's girlfriend? Luke has a girlfriend?" Before I could think too much, the elevator had already reached the top floor. I pushed open Luke's office door, and he was the only one inside. Luke was sitting on the sofa, engrossed in something. Before I even got close, I heard him say, "Wife, when will you start to like me?" Oh, so he was looking at something and thinking of someone. I leaned in, wanting to see which beauty was so unfortunate as to catch Luke's eye. The person in the photo looked familiar. My goodness, how is this me? Looking at my youthful face in the photo, it must have been several years ago. Luke finally noticed my approach. He was startled and quickly came to his senses, flipping the photo face down on the table. He signed to me, "Why do you walk so quietly?" He kept frowning, as if he detested my presence. But for the first time, I caught the uncontrollable affection in his eyes. Luke, he likes me? I suddenly felt like teasing him, so I didn't tell him my hearing had recovered. Watching him act, his sign language clearly said, "Why are you here again?" But what he said out loud was, "Woo woo woo, wife, you're finally here." My hearing was accidentally damaged after I became an adult. At the time, I knew there was a possibility of treatment and recovery, so I didn't learn lip reading. I always thought Luke was mumbling at me every day, cursing me when he thought I couldn't hear. Interesting. I signed back. "Why did you steal my photo?" As I gestured, I picked up the photo from the table. I don't seem to have this photo. From the angle, it looks more like a candid shot. "Luke, you're really intriguing." Luke got anxious and quickly said, "What's yours?" "This is mine." He snatched the photo back. But his sign language conveyed, "This is so I don't forget my opponent." He took the photo and then mumbled softly, "The photo is mine, and the person is mine too." I don't know what he thought of, but his blush spread all the way to his ears. He looked inexplicably innocent. It was almost noon. Meeting Luke's somewhat expectant gaze, I actively signed, "I'm hungry. Luke wouldn't mind treating me to a meal, would he?" Luke pouted, seemingly resentfully signing, "Miss Jennifer is broke and needs a free meal?" If it weren't for his "I'm willing" being too loud, I would have actually believed him. I pretended to leave. If he doesn't want to treat me, then he doesn't. As I expected, as soon as I reached the door, Luke chased after me with his coat. He grabbed my sleeve and signed to me, "I'm not so down and out that I can't afford a meal. Let's go, my lady." I pulled my sleeve back. Luke was clearly stunned for a second. His eyes reddened, looking like an abandoned big dog. This idiot. I was helpless and signed. I was in a hurry to leave and didn't wear my glasses, so I can't see clearly. "Hold on to me." Then I reached out and grabbed his sleeve. Luke's reaction time this time was a full 3 minutes. He looked at me, then at my hand holding his. He tried hard to suppress a smile, pretending to be calm as he signed to me, "Still need someone to pull you out the door. Typical you." All the way out of the company, I heard countless people greet me and wave. I heard every employee call me madam, but I had to pretend I knew nothing. Turns out, every time we met, they weren't saying, "Hello." I guessed it was Luke's doing. Childish. I specifically chose the most expensive Western restaurant in the city center. Luke is rich, and he wouldn't refuse. The environment inside was excellent. Looking out from the restaurant's floor-to-ceiling windows, you could overlook half of City A. The waitress enthusiastically greeted us. Are you two a couple? We currently have a store promotion. Couples dining get 12% off. I was about to shake my head. Luke directly said, Yes, my wife prefers quiet. Please arrange a quiet spot for us. Okay, sir. After the waitress left, I pretended I knew nothing and asked him, What did she just say to you? Luke signed to me. She thinks I'm too handsome, so she's giving us a discount. Such audacity. As we were eating, a familiar and annoying voice suddenly came from behind us. Jennifer Delaney? I didn't turn around. The woman walked directly to me and touched my arm. Oh, I forgot you're deaf now. I looked up, meeting Jessica's overly plastic surgery face. The daughter of my stepmother, the mistress. After my mother died and my father's mistress took her place, she became even more brazen. Her daughter was the same, constantly looking for opportunities to belittle me. I couldn't be bothered with her and continued eating with my head down, but Jessica wouldn't let up. Her male companion beside her asked, Honey, who is this? She's the good-for-nothing left behind by my dad's early deceased ex-wife. The male companion was shocked. You say that, and she really won't get angry? It's fine, Jessica continued nonchalantly. She has hearing problems. She's deaf now. Does she really think she can compete with me for the family inheritance? Compete for the family inheritance? I truly found her stupidity laughable. She and her mother probably didn't know that my scumbag father never had any company shares. My grandfather knew exactly what kind of person his son was. He had transferred all the company shares to me when I turned 18. How could he possibly hand over the business he had painstakingly built his entire life to his mistress's family? I didn't intend to pay attention to Jessica's antics. After all, I was pretending not to hear. But the next second, Jessica shrieked. It turned out Luke had accidentally knocked over the hot water cup on the table, spilling it all over Jessica's hand. Her hand instantly turned red. Luke! Sorry, I did it on purpose. Don't mind me. Tsk, not on purpose, but... Wait a minute! I looked at Luke, who was as reckless as ever. The word restraint had never appeared in his dictionary. Typical Luke. Jessica was fuming but couldn't take it out on Luke. She turned to leave, but Luke blocked her way again. Just because you don't mind doesn't mean I don't. Apologize to Jennifer. Jessica could only whisper to me. Sorry. But Luke still blocked her path. Is that the sincerity of your apology? If you don't know the sign language for I'm sorry, can't you learn it on the spot? Did you forget your phone or your brain? I desperately tried to suppress my laughter. Pretending not to hear was too difficult. I almost buried my head in the plate. Jessica gritted her teeth. Luke, don't go too far. Oh, really? I can actually go further. Why don't you go find your umpteenth sugar daddy to back you up? Jessica looked like she had eaten dirt, her face a dark shade of green. After 10 minutes of learning sign language, I saw her sign, I'm sorry. After Jessica and her group left, I tried to speak, only to remember I was pretending to be deaf. I quickly switched to sign language. Luke, thank you. You're welcome. I just can't stand a mistress's daughter being so arrogant. Oh, I continued to eat with my head down. Then I heard him say, I don't want a simple thank you. I want you to kiss me. I spat out a mouthful of wine. Luke quickly handed me a tissue. I could only explain. I accidentally choked. My face turned uncontrollably red. Idiot. This wasn't sign language. I suddenly looked up at him. He gestured in sign language. What's wrong? I shook my head. It's really hard to pretend to be deaf in front of Luke. This guy is two-faced. Who would have thought? He gestured. Jennifer, is your brain broken? You can't see the problem with such a scam project. Then he took the proposal from my hand. I never intended to take on this project. It was clearly a trap. I'm just deaf, not blind. He leaned back on the other end of the sofa, looking very provocative. If I couldn't hear him say, what kind of garbage project is worth my wife's time? Wife, I'll give you 200 million. How about I treat you well? I really wanted to say, okay. You know, although everyone has their own ambitions, that's 200 million after all. Luke frowned and gestured again. Why are you staring at me? Do you have another bad idea? I hadn't noticed before, but this guy is indeed excessively handsome. I've always known Luke is handsome. Otherwise, I wouldn't have mistaken him for a pretty girl and kissed him when we first met as children. That's how their feud began. But unlike what I imagined, Luke doesn't seem to hate me because of that kiss. I blinked and signed to him. Luke, you're so handsome. Teasing. Luke really is as fun as ever. He clearly froze for a second, his eyes widening. Realizing what I'd said, he quickly signed. "You're crazy!" His handsome face visibly flushed. He muttered, "Damn, I want to kiss you." I quietly moved a little further away from him. Sometimes I really worry about Luke's mental state. Is he going to develop schizophrenia? If he does, will he still give me his 200 million? When I got home that evening, as soon as I walked in, my dad's teacup was thrown at me. The scalding tea soaked my shoes. "You have the nerve to come back?" I glanced at Jessica, who was crying her eyes out next to him, and my stepmother, who was looking at me with resentment and quickly understood what was going on. But I ignored them and turned to go upstairs. Anyway, I was deaf now. Jessica, however, grabbed my arm and pulled me down. She used so much force that I almost fell down the stairs. But no one present seemed to care. They all adopted an accusatory stance. My dad pulled out his phone and typed on it. "Helping an outsider bully your sister? Is that how I raised you? Outsider? Luke? They don't dare provoke Luke, so they take it all out on me. A family of spineless cowards." Seeing me distracted, my stepmother said to my dad, "Oh, don't blame Jennifer. She surely didn't mean it. How could she possibly side with outsiders? Even though she's always disliked us, she definitely wouldn't help an outsider." I really wished I could stay deaf, so I wouldn't have to listen to her grating voice. Who should I pick? I rolled my eyes and typed on my phone for my dad to see. "I don't know what you're talking about." I ran into Jessica at noon today, and she apologized and left shortly after. "I don't know what's wrong with her. That's exactly how it was. I didn't say a single word." Jessica cried even harder. "I know it's all my fault. That's why they can all bully me. Sister, I accept that you don't like me, but how could you let Luke humiliate me like that?" She certainly didn't have this attitude when she actively started trouble at noon. A turtle farting. "Can't hear. Can't hear." I continued typing. "Dad, I can't hear, and I don't know what Jessica and Luke said at noon." He wavered for a moment. "Since I can't hear, it's hard for me to actively instigate trouble. It's a problem any normal person could figure out with their toes." He asked Jessica, "Did you do something to displease young Master Luke?" "Our Jessica is so well behaved and obedient. Someone must have seen her as easy to bully and deliberately made things difficult for her," my stepmother quickly retorted. Jessica also cried tearfully. "I don't want to live. I might as well jump off a building and die." She would threaten suicide whenever she didn't get her way. Never actually died, though. But that trick worked wonders on my dad. With his beloved wife and daughter crying their eyes out, he didn't care about the truth. He told me to apologize. The words on my phone stung my eyes. He told me, "No matter whose fault it is, Jennifer, you apologize to Jessica." Although I'd experienced things like this countless times growing up, I still stared blankly at my biological father, my heart aching as if someone had punched it. My fists clenched and then relaxed. There was no way I was going to apologize to Jessica. "If you don't apologize, don't blame me for disowning you." Perfect. I couldn't have wished for anything more. I turned and went upstairs. My dad's authority was challenged. He furiously grabbed the nearby hot water kettle and threw it at me. I dodged it, but the spilled hot water still scalded my arm. Back in my room, I locked the door, making sure they wouldn't come in and bother me. Then, I skillfully found the first aid kit and treated my own wound. Just as I finished bandaging it and was about to get ready for bed, Luke's video call came in. As soon as I answered, he signed, "Nothing's wrong, just making sure you're still alive." He made a call like this every night. During the day at the mall, the two were at loggerheads. At night, they went home and argued over the phone using sign language. No one else could do that. He gestured again. "Why are your eyes red?" "It's nothing. You're not yourself." He frowned and gestured again. "Were you bullied?" He just said it casually, not expecting to actually guess correctly. My tears could no longer be held back. I curled up in bed and cried sadly. By the time I finished crying and tried to control my emotions, Luke had already hung up the video call. A wave of disappointment washed over me. Just as I was about to go to bed, I suddenly heard someone knocking on my window. I opened the window, and under the moonlight, Luke was clinging to my windowsill. This was the 3rd floor. It was clear he had struggled to climb up. His clothes and face were covered in dirt. He looked a bit disheveled and a bit comical. He couldn't free his hands to sign, so he just looked at me with a wronged expression. I reached out and pulled him up. "Why are you here?" Luke didn't even look at my sign language. He just grabbed my arm directly. Who did it? Who else could it be but the grumpy old man in this house? "It's your dad again, right? That bastard. He hits his own daughter so hard." After cursing my dad, he pointed at me. "Can't you fight back? Can't you dodge?" I shrugged helplessly. I dodged, but I couldn't get away. I tried to keep my expression relaxed. Perhaps subconsciously, I still didn't want to show weakness in front of Luke. He was my biggest rival, after all. But the next second, he pulled me directly into his arms. His solid chest made me gasp for a moment. My heart completely went wild. Soon, I heard Luke say, "Why do you always get hurt? It's all my fault. All my fault for not protecting you." My long suppressed tears finally broke free. Luke quickly let go of me. He frantically signed, "Don't cry. If you don't want a hug, then don't hug." He thought I was crying because I disliked him. To compensate, he even shrugged casually. "I just heard online that hugs can heal people. You know, I've been kind since I was a child. I'm serious." But he didn't dare to look into my eyes. Lying, even when signing, he must have been arrogant since childhood. Thinking of this, I burst into laughter. Luke signed, crying and laughing. "Are you going crazy?" But what he said was, "My wife looks better when she smiles." I held his hand, which was fidgeting nervously. As I got closer, I clearly felt his body stiffen. Before he could react, I stood on tiptoe and kissed his thin lips. It was still as easy to kiss as when we were kids. This kissing position wasn't very comfortable, so I just had a taste. I wanted to pull away immediately. The next second, Luke, realizing what was happening, wrapped his arm around my waist and deepened the kiss. He finally let go when I was out of breath, still looking like he hadn't had enough. Luke blushes easily. He gestured, "Jennifer, you pervert!" He looked like a pure young man who had been defiled. If I hadn't heard him say, "Wifey, kiss me properly. Wifey, you'll definitely take responsibility for me after kissing me, right? Let's get married tomorrow. You'll take responsibility, right? Right? People don't just kiss someone they don't like for no reason, do they?" I found it too noisy, and I was afraid I couldn't control my expression, so I simply turned away from him. Behind his back, the corners of his mouth were completely uncontrollable. Unexpectedly, Luke misunderstood that I didn't want to take responsibility. He got anxious and chattered even more. "Don't tell me that kissing was just to improve your kissing skills. I don't accept that reason. You must take responsibility for me." "Wifey, I'm really easy to take care of. Could someone just mute him for a while?" My ears, which had just recovered, were starting to get calloused. By the time I finally adjusted my expression and turned to look at him, he had already been silently alone for a long time. Because my father's infidelity drove my mother to her death, I never believed in any bullshit about love and swore never to fall in love in this lifetime. But now, meeting Luke's gaze, I inexplicably felt that a long-planned romance might not be so bad after all, but I hadn't even had a chance to explain everything. Luke had already gestured. "Don't say anything, I understand. I'm your practice dummy." Dummy? I didn't understand. He continued to gesture. "Don't worry. I understand the rules of the Jianghu. I don't need you to be responsible." His sign language was righteous, but he secretly reddened his eyes, tears welling up. I really don't know how he imagined so much in such a short time. Am I the kind of person who would just kiss anyone? I'm such an upright person. I also don't know how to coax people or show weakness, so I gestured to him. "Then according to the rules of the Jianghu, I don't need you anymore. You can leave." Luke turned around. I heard him crying. After Luke left, I regretted it. This broken sign language I use is as stubborn as my mouth. Actually, it's not that I can't coax him, it's just that I've been used to competing for first place with him since childhood. We're always at loggerheads, never wanting to back down. Should I call Luke now and explain? But I really can't bring myself to apologize. In the end, I could only ask for help from my best friend Emily, who is abroad. As soon as the video call connected, she immediately asked, "Has your hearing recovered?" "Yes, it has." "No. How did you know?" "When your hearing was damaged and you couldn't speak, your eyes had a clear innocence, untainted by foul language." She understood me very well. What's more, I remember the doctor always said that you only had temporary deafness and would definitely recover. The first thing to do when dealing with an illness is to stay calm. So that's it. Just as I was about to speak, she said again, "It was that guy, Luke, who, knowing your hearing was damaged, wished he could give you his ears. He almost caused a scene at the hospital. He also wanted to beat up the driver who knocked you down and couldn't be stopped." "Luke? Are you saying Luke did all this for me?" Emily looked surprised. "Didn't you know?" "No, I didn't. All I knew was that I was inexplicably hit by a runaway car while walking on the street. Then I was unconscious for a day. When I woke up, I saw Luke sitting by my bed, gesturing something. But at that time, I couldn't hear yet and hadn't learned sign language, so I didn't understand what he was gesturing at all. I thought he was there to gloat and make fun of me. Sigh. You two really hated each other after you broke up. We were never together. I looked up at the sky and sighed deeply. We could have been together tonight. I just missed that opportunity. Never together? I always thought you two were a couple who broke up and love turned to hate. I even thought you dumped Luke, and he failed to win you back, so he only dared to call you wife in private. So why have you been targeting each other for so many years? I fell silent. Of course, I considered Luke my rival because he was good enough. As for why I was so obsessed with winning and being first, some unpleasant memories flooded my mind. My dad cheated on my mom with a mistress when I was 3 and had another child. He started leaving early and coming home late, sometimes not coming home for a long time. When he did come home, he wouldn't even look at my mom. My mom couldn't accept her lover's betrayal. She tried various tactics to force my dad to return to the family. Unfortunately, nothing worked. Her gaze turned to me. After all, I was my dad's biological daughter. No matter what, he wouldn't abandon me. My dad, at that time, still had a little conscience left. So, to attract my dad back, I always got injured inexplicably. Today, I was scalded by boiling water. Tomorrow, I fell down the stairs. Now that I think about it, I'm truly lucky to have survived under their care. Such tricks, when used too often, become ineffective. Later, when I was a little older, my mom taught me that I had to strive for first place. Only if I came in first would my dad come back to love me. No one would love a failed child. I was brainwashed by such words until I was 10. My 10th birthday was also the anniversary of my parents' first meeting. I held a perfect score test paper and a trophy from a math Olympiad. My mom wore exquisite makeup and a beautiful little dress. One big and one small waited by the dining table, waiting for someone who would never come back. As midnight approached, this most important day was quickly passing. My mom finally got through to him on the phone, but it was a woman's voice that answered. I didn't hear what the woman said. After hanging up the phone, my mom sat in a daze for a long time, her emotions slowly collapsing. She told me to go to bed, then climbed onto the rooftop alone and jumped from the top of the building without the slightest hesitation. My mom was gone. But I had already gotten used to striving for first place, especially when competing with Luke. We've been together for so many years, and we're evenly matched. My thoughts returned, and I explained the recent drama to Emily. What should I do? Go and explain it clearly to Luke. Wouldn't that be too impulsive? You're just one step away from resolving this kind of thing. Emily pushed up her glasses. Listen to me. Deposit your unyielding, noble head with me for a while. Go and explain it clearly to Luke. Otherwise, you'll regret it. I thought she was right. But before I could go to Luke, he came to me. My company was busy all day, and I didn't have time to find Luke. By the time everything was over, it was already evening. As soon as I left the company, I received a message from Luke. Meet me at the encounter bar. Anyone who doesn't come is a wimp. I laughed in exasperation. Luke, is this how you treat your wife? But I couldn't deny that reverse psychology worked especially well on me. 20 minutes later, I appeared at the bar entrance. Even if I wasn't going to be a wimp, I had to stand my ground. I immediately saw Luke in the corner, sitting at the head of a group of people, flamboyant and dazzling. Just as I was about to go up and say hello, I heard one of them say, "Brother Luke, did you argue with your wife?" Luke opened and closed his phone, staring stubbornly at the same chat interface, not saying a word. Someone else chimed in. "What kind of woman can't you find?" "Shut up," Luke said, displeased. He looked up and met my gaze. He quickly stood up and walked over. The person who had been full of hostility now only had tenderness in his eyes. He signed to me, "Why are you here?" The bar was noisy. I heard him call me wife several times. Luke was suddenly drunk. He pulled me into his arms, his voice resentful. "You finally decided to show up. Why didn't you wait until I was dead to come collect my body? It's good that I'm dead. You'll have one less competitor, right? Aren't you just thrilled? Jennifer, you're heartless. Jennifer, even if I die, I'll haunt you as a ghost," he ranted, taking advantage of the fact that I couldn't hear him. So noisy. I took Luke out of the bar. Ignoring his struggles, I put him in the back seat of the car and took him back to my place. After becoming an adult, I bought my own house. Occasionally, I would go back to my parents' place, but only to pick up things. Luke sat quietly in the corner of the sofa. Even though he was drunk, he didn't forget how to sign. He asked me, "Why did you bring me to your house? Jennifer, are you plotting against me?" After signing, he crossed his arms, looking defiant. I frowned and straddled his lap. This time, even his neck turned red. He urgently signed, Get off. I no longer concealed the truth about my hearing recovery. I leaned into his ear and whispered softly, I can hear now. You can just speak. I can hear everything. Luke exploded. You can hear? When did your hearing recover? Oh, it was probably that time you called me wife while looking at my photo. You misheard. I clearly called you old scoundrel. Should I leave then? But Luke, I actually quite like it when you call me wife. I winked at him. As soon as I finished speaking, Luke could no longer control himself and pressed my head down, kissing me. Just as I was getting into it, Luke pushed me away. No, don't kiss me. You won't take responsibility for me. Her tone was aggrieved. I never said I wouldn't. Luke, I kind of like you too. What answered me was Luke's long silence. I watched his expression change. Was he stunned? The next second, the hand on my waist suddenly tightened. Luke's voice was muffled. Can you give me an IOU? What did you say? An IOU. To prove that you will definitely take responsibility. I was speechless. After writing, I signed and fingerprinted it. Do you believe me now? I threw the IOU at him. He nodded, as if he had just realized. Woo woo woo! Wife. So we were secretly in love with each other. Not really. Before, I really only saw him as a rival. But only later did I understand my own feelings. Luke, why didn't you ever say anything if you liked me? He was being reserved about something like this. A man with no mouth. Meeting my gaze. His eyes were particularly resentful. Think about it carefully. Didn't I say it? In sophomore year, I confessed to you. And you said I had ulterior motives, disturbing your focus the night before the competition. It seemed there was such a thing. He continued to accuse. I sent you a love letter, and you thought I was showing off my literary talent. The more he spoke, the guiltier I felt. At the time, I thought it was some kind of love letter writing competition, and I wrote 18 letters overnight. I'm lucky to be your opponent, but I don't have to win. It's just that when we go on stage to receive awards, the first and second places are next to each other. Jennifer, I just want to stand by your side. As he spoke, his hand landed where it shouldn't have. After I stopped him, he whispered hoarsely in my ear. Wife, let's have a competition? What competition? I didn't react. Luke leaned down. A race against time. This time, Luke won completely. I temporarily concealed the fact that my hearing had recovered. People at the company only knew that I was dating the boss of a rival company, and we were inseparable every day. Luke's appearances at our company were almost as frequent as those of official employees. Assistant Kyle gave me a thumbs up. Sis, I get it. This is your honey trap. Honey trap? He's still too naive. The real honey trap was Luke locking the door as soon as he entered my office. Before I could react, he pinned me against the wall. Luke, what do you want to do? This is the company. If someone found out, I'd lose all face. But he showed no shyness, pulling my hand to explore inside his clothes. The real touch of his 8-pack abs made me dazed. Seeing my delight, a determined smile flashed in his eyes. As I looked up at him, he pulled me, making me fall completely into his arms. He rested his head on my shoulder, his tall body almost completely obscuring me, but his tone was a little aggrieved. Wife, it hurts here. His finger was on his chest. I picked up on his cheesy pickup line. You miss me so much it hurts after only half an hour apart. No. He shook his head and continued. You bit too hard last night. Don't say another word. I quickly covered his mouth to prevent hearing any more suggestive words. Luke, however, was relentless. With a seemingly innocent face, he bit my hand, his eyes full of ambiguous desire. I quickly pulled my hand back. I'll go buy you some ointment right away. In what capacity are you buying me medicine now? Wife, I think I've forgotten due to the pain. Who did you say you are to me? His tall frame held me firmly. He wouldn't budge, insisting that I blush and say, as your girlfriend? Fine. Luke finally let go of me after getting a satisfactory answer. All right. I won't tease you anymore. Luke returned to his serious demeanor. The car accident information you asked me to investigate. The car accident 3 years ago caused my hearing loss. I always suspected it wasn't an accident. After secretly recovering my hearing, I went back to my father's house again. The first thing I heard was Jessica's exasperated voice. Why does that bitch Jennifer get to fight me for the family fortune? I'm my dad's favorite daughter, my stepmother said. The old man is confused too. Jennifer is just a girl. If all the family fortune is left to her, won't it all go to outsiders in the future? Oh, it seems they found out that my grandfather didn't leave them a single share of his equity. I was about to continue down the stairs when I suddenly heard another familiar voice. No matter what, she's still my daughter. No matter what, She has to listen to me, her father. It turned out my dad was there too. The three of them thought I couldn't hear, so they conspired loudly and recklessly. I just stood quietly at the corner of the stairs, watching their ugly faces. My stepmother said, "What if she doesn't listen to you? Won't Jessica and I be out on the streets then?" She gave a look, and Jessica instantly burst into tears. "Dad, I don't want to be out on the streets. I'd rather just die." She wouldn't dare. In fact, his voice lacked conviction. In recent years, he had long been unable to control me. I have absolute shares in the company and absolute say. A few days ago, I used the excuse of wanting him to enjoy his retirement to make him give up his position in the company. No one dared to object. He pondered for a moment, a hint of cunning appearing on his face. "It's fine. If our daughter dies, her father should have inheritance rights, right? Are you saying, like 3 years ago?" My stepmother's words sent a chill down my spine. I watched my dad nod. An accident can happen once, and it can happen again. The most terrifying thing is that it was never an accident. On that empty road, the out-of-control car almost completely rushed towards me. I had no time to dodge, and my dad and them signed a letter of understanding for me while I was unconscious. The drunk driver only paid tens of thousands of yuan and was cleared of responsibility. After I woke up, I wanted to investigate the matter. But with impaired hearing, it was inconvenient to move around in many ways. The driver also disappeared without a trace. I suspected that this matter was my stepmother's doing, and I also suspected my dad was covering for them. Now that I think about it, I was terribly wrong. Jessica and her mother are just parasites who only know how to eat, drink, play, buy bags, and go shopping. How could they design so many steps? It turns out my dad was the mastermind. I asked Luke to help me investigate the car accident records from that time. Looking at the thick stack of documents in my hand, I sighed deeply. It was all about this driver's connections. Luke said, "The driver who hit you is named Tony. He's 41 years old and he's from H City. He's currently farming at home. They say he's lazy and gluttonous, but wealthy people always come to him in luxury cars." He pointed to the man's photo. I noticed the man looked somewhat familiar. He dropped out of junior high, but he had a very beautiful girlfriend. He supported her through school, but later, when she got into college, she dumped him for not having money and became a rich man's mistress. We exchanged glances. He nodded. "Yes, it's your stepmother, Kristen. I looked at the dates on the documents. They happened to coincide with Jessica's birth, but no one could be sure if she got pregnant after the breakup or before." Luke noticed my confusion. "I've already had people compare Tony's and Jessica's DNA. He pulled out a test report from the stack of documents. Confirmed paternity. How ironic. My dad would be furious if he knew he'd raised someone else's daughter. He deserves it." Tony was indeed a mercenary scoundrel. But this also made it easier for us to investigate. Luke offered him a little money, and he spilled the entire plan from back then. His stepmother gave him $1 million to hit someone. He initially didn't want to do something illegal, but his stepmother brought up Jessica, saying she was his biological daughter. He still had a lingering affection for the woman. Now, knowing she had given birth to his child, he couldn't refuse. But besides the $1 million, he added another condition. Jessica had to visit him, her biological father, every month. After getting the recorded video evidence, Luke asked me, "Shall we go to the police station now?" "No." I shook my head. 3 years ago, it was intentional harm, but my life wasn't in danger. Those villains would be out in a few years. Such a punishment was too light. They want the accident to happen again, don't they? Then let's make it happen again. You've been appallingly calm since you were a child. Indeed. Perhaps no one else would be like me, knowing that my own father wanted to harm me, yet still standing here calmly analyzing the situation. I shrugged. It's not surprising that they could do these things, is it? Luke didn't say anything, but his hand was firmly clasped with mine, reassuring me. My father, uncharacteristically, showered me with concern. I also pretended to be touched and played along with his affectionate act. For my 27th birthday, he gave me a car. The grand-sounding reason was to travel far and wide. Oh, it was a car with faulty brakes. With this luxury car, I showed off to Jessica every day. Seeing her dark, ugly face, I knew my father hadn't told Jessica about his plan. One beautiful day, I couldn't find my car keys. Because the car was valuable and I hadn't driven it yet, Luke and I decided to call the police. At the police station, the police officer diligently took down my statement. As we were talking, a police officer rushed in. There was a car accident on Yonghua Road, and a middle-aged woman was killed. The driver fled. The police officer brought over the scene photos. The officer responsible for taking notes was visibly stunned and looked at us. Are you sure the car you lost has the license plate number 222 big? I shook my head. I lost my car keys. The car should still be in my garage at home, but I'm worried a thief stole it, so I came to file a report. Both your car and car keys have been found. We arrived at the accident scene. The area was already cordoned off, and the ambulance had just left. I heard that the person hit was a well-dressed middle-aged woman who died instantly. The preliminary assessment of the accident cause was brake failure. How could my car's brakes fail? This is a new car my dad just bought me last month. Officer, this is a matter of safety, and the car manufacturer cannot be let off the hook. I took the police to my dad to get the vehicle purchase invoice. As soon as I pushed open the door, a smell of blood rushed out. My dad's fruit knife was still in his hand. Lying on the floor was Jessica, covered in blood, who was the driver involved in the accident. Jessica knew she had hit someone and rushed home, wanting my dad to help her. In her panic, she didn't even notice that the person she hit was her own mother. Unfortunately, I had just sent that paternity test report to my dad a few hours earlier. He was in a rage at that moment. When we arrived, we witnessed the bloodiest scene. The police instantly became alert. Drop your weapons. Luke covered my eyes. Don't be afraid. I leaned back. Luke, I'm so scared. It was 2 days later when I woke up in the hospital. My body was fine, but I was too exhausted and traumatized, falling into a coma. I heard that Jessica had lost too much blood and couldn't be saved. My father finally confessed. Brake failure, premeditated murder, and killing Jessica, he did it all. This was enough to get him sentenced to death. Everything was back on track. Luke and I were still rivals, but also the best lovers. On New Year's Eve, he proposed to me under a sky full of fireworks. According to custom, I should have feigned shyness for a moment or two before agreeing. Instead, Luke directly put the ring on my hand and pulled out a piece of paper. You can't be irresponsible. This is a written agreement. Okay, I'll be responsible.